This is the Farmington Feed, bringing you information from the city of Farmington.
Welcome back to another episode of Farmington Feed. Our HR department has been so busy this year, like many others, I'm sure. They have brought in some new faces with a lot of talent, and I'm so excited to introduce you to them today. We're going to kick off our introductions with the new Parks and Recreation Supervisor, Emily Shearer. Welcome to the Feed, Emily. You are no stranger to the city of Farmington and the community. What was it like growing up in Farmington?
So I actually have lived in Farmington my whole entire life until I went to college in Mankato. And I would say when I think about my childhood, I tend to think of almost that like child dream-like kind of scenario in that the neighborhood I grew up in was in Troy Hill, which at that time, I don't totally know the population or demographic of who lives there right now. But when I did have my house there growing up, everyone in the streets in the neighborhood were kids my age. I mean, obviously, they had families that lived in those homes. But there were so many kids in the neighborhood that we frequently, especially in the summer times, got out every single night, played yard games, things like kick the can, or there was a game called Ghost in the Graveyard.
Oh my gosh, I remember that one.
Yes.
So fun.
And so pretty much every single night we were out, whether it was a, weekday or weekend night, didn't really matter. Obviously, once it got to a certain time, we had to go back inside. But it was kind of the pinnacle childhood dream life, if you will, in the sense that I got to grow up surrounded by children, playing games with them. And
you got to meet a lot of other kids.
Exactly. And then we all walked to the bus stop together in the mornings during the school year. And then even in the winter, had a pond in the backyard on my street and the one across the street. So kids were always, ice skating on it, on both of them. And so, in general, when I think of my childhood, I think of the games that I got to play with the kids in my neighborhood until, or even past dark. And just that, kind of, I don't know, it's dreamlike to me. But the other kind of fun thing I like to think about with my growing up in Farmington is that I think there's 9 public school buildings in Farmington. I've attended classes in 7 of them.
Wow.
So, because I attended Aiken Road 1st through 3rd grade until Meadowview was built.
Sure.
And prior to that, I did attend kindergarten center. Then I attended Meadowview. And then I went 6th and 7th through Middle School East and 8th and 9th through Middle School West. And then went to the old high school, which is now Bachman, for my first year of high school. And then finished off my last 2 years of high school in the new high school.
In the new one?
Yeah. And so...
Oh my gosh.
7 of the 9 schools I've actually attended classes in, which
That's a lot of schools.
Yeah.
That's a lot of change. That's got to be fun and keep it interesting, right?
And without moving ever houses.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Kind of a cool thing that I always like to think about, too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started working for the Parks Department in high school?
Yes. So if my memory can, recall correctly, I was hired when I was 15 in 2009, and I believe I turned 16 that year going into the summer. And so I've been working as a recreation assistant from essentially 15, 16, and then got the recreation program supervisor job when I was a freshman in college, and then continued that while I was getting my undergraduate degree and my master's degree. And so I actually had that job through the summer of 2017 until I moved to Arizona. So I think it ends up coming out to 9 years total before I moved. So
that was, you said it was the recreation supervisor position, or
recreation program supervisor.
Okay.
It's kind of the titles, I should say, for the positions can be kind of confusing because there's the recreation assistant is kind of the staff who are on site leading the programs, and then the recreation program supervisor is a position that someone is kind of working in between the recreation assistants and the recreation supervisors to help kind of plan the programs, to schedule staff, to kind of be on site and be on call and things of that nature. And then the recreation supervisor is now what I have. And so those are kind of the varying levels.
Got it.
Yeah.
You did that kind of seasonally, and then you moved out of state, and then you decided to move back this summer.
Yes.
And yeah, what's that been like coming back?
So actually, I mean, very different from Arizona. It's kind of funny because I think when I moved out to Arizona, for some odd reason, it felt like a vacation for quite a few months. I think just because it's Arizona.
Yep, and it's so nice out. There's sun
vacation
shining.
state.
Yep.
And so I never really felt a moment of culture shock there because I think I was just like, oh, it's a weird vacation, even though I live here. And then eventually I just felt like I was living there. Where when I moved back, it almost felt almost like a culture shock because I just was like, okay, this is not, I got used to living surrounded by millions of people.
Yep.
With the populations of the whole Phoenix metro area, it is millions of people. Mm-hmm. And then when I came back here and, started to work seasonally again with the city of Farmington before I got to this recreation supervisor job, it was just kind of a little bit of a culture shock in the sense of back in that really hometown feeling environment. Not what I was used to over past 5 years. And it's kind of shocking how quickly you can get used to something like being surrounded by millions of people.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been kind of an interesting adjustment, but it felt comfortable the second I got back in and got things moving and grooving and things of that nature. So
yeah,
it's good to be back. It just immediately I was like, whoa, everyone knows each other again.
Yep. What are you most excited for in your new position of the recreation supervisor?
I think the thing I'm most excited for is in the past as a, recreation program supervisor, a lot of times these programs were already kind of developed and, well, at least for sure planned for things like putting them in the Farmington Currents. And then so when I got my hands on them, it was something that was already developed and I just was therefore trying to more implement it. Maybe plan some smaller things around the inside of it, but not fully putting my own, thoughts and my own kind of like hands-on skills with these programs. And so now that I have the opportunity to determine what kinds of programs I want to have and what I want to see Farmington have, it provides me a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more creativity that I maybe necessarily didn't have in the past. So I'm most excited to kind of get my hands in and actually start to, continue programs that have been successful and that people enjoy and then also develop new programs that I think Farmington could really benefit from.
Cool. Yeah, you get to put your own little twist on
Exactly.
on your programs. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in mind for the future of what you want to see Farmington have for programs?
I mean, right now I have been kind of looking into maybe, because again, with winter coming up, that's kind of my forefront of mind, possibly doing like a field trip to Welch Village. I know there's been interest of someone actually, like of an actual snowboarding skiing club starting, but that might be a couple of years out. So maybe just start with a field trip. Also, I know Muddy Waters and Parks and Rec we've already kind of started to develop a program that we are hoping becomes an annual program, in that leading up to Christmas in December, we'll have a couple days where you can go in and make an annual ornament for your Christmas tree.
Cool.
And so, like this year would be the 2022 ornament. Mm-hmm. And then if it's continuing to be an annual tradition, then people can continue to come back with their kids and make these ornaments every single year. And then hopefully eventually the Christmas tree's filled with their annual ornament.
Yeah, that would be so fun.
Yeah, it's already in the works. So you'll see it actually in the Currents here and for the winter.
Yep. November 22nd, I think it'll be in homes.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming on, and we wish you luck in your new position.
Thank you.
Thanks. Patty Ridley is the new payroll specialist. She started consulting with the HR department back in January and then joined the team as an official city staff member in August.
Yep, August 23.
So we must have done something right for you to stick around, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a few things that you did right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you come from before?
So I was with Robert Half as a full-time engagement specialist, which means that clients would reach out to Robert Half and say, we need somebody for like 3 to 6 months, sometimes a year, because we're going through a software transition, or we've got people out on medical leave for extended time. And so I was actually an employee of Robert Half.
Okay.
And so, so I would just go to a client, and Farmington was only my third client that I had since I'd worked there. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, so
I
you dipped your toes in only a few companies, huh?
Yep. And I didn't have any intention. I really liked it. It was a great company. It still is a great company. Very generous, very good to their employees. And so I was in a really unique situation to I didn't have to leave a job.
Sure.
I think we've all been in that position where you're like, oh my God, anything will be better than the craziness that I'm in right now or whatever. And I was in a super, super blessed place where I loved working with the people here in the city. And I really loved working with my people at Robert Half. And so it was a hard decision, frankly. It really was, because it's like I wasn't trying to leave anything.
Right. It just kind of fell into your lap.
It did. And it's all about timing.
It is, for sure. Since you started, has there been anyone at the city who has had like a big impact on you?
Oh, gosh. There's been more than one person, actually. I mean, Lynn Gorski is the first, because she was the one that reached out to Robert Half to say, we need some help. And, at the time, the HR director was trying to do payroll and HR and whatnot. And Lynn recognized the fact that, we just need some help with payroll. So that was just the first reason that I even came here, was just to help get payroll done and maybe create a system or something or whatever. But working with her was really enjoyable. Her personality was great. Her work ethic is excellent. Her experience and her knowledge and her background was super interesting. I'd never worked for a city, so I'd worked with school districts before. So I was familiar with like municipal and para and just in unions and that type of thing. But that was in a school district setting, which is very different.
Yep. A little different.
That I'm learning than a city. And so it was really great to have that person that I could be like, okay, this is different. Never worked with this before. And so she was able to really help me. And then just as time went on, it was like everyone that I was interacting with, everybody from just an employee that said hello to me. I was here like once a week.
Yep.
And just that friendliness of the people in the building and always looking to help me. Nobody, if I asked a question, I could say, I'm new, trying to understand. Everybody was just so happy to help.
Yeah,
and I was
definitely.
like, okay, that is so refreshing.
There's so much teamwork that goes on between the departments and all of that.
And
it's
nobody
amazing.
I never got the feeling that it was, even though this was only the third client, I'd worked in other settings, and I worked for a credit union as well, doing payroll. And there was always animosity between departments.
Okay.
And I could never, and payroll is the one job that you have a foot for sure in HR and in finance.
Yep.
And so you're kind of this person that has to figure out like, okay, I got to get along with everybody here because I can't do my job well
without that relationship. Yeah.
And so if there was ever animosity between the departments, holy buckets, it made your job just so hard. And I did not feel any of that here at all.
That's great. Like, how is it different working from a city versus being in the private sector?
That actually is a really good question, because there are differences. I mean, the number one difference is the pension.
Sure.
I did almost 30 years in public school districts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've got theoretically vested with para and whatnot. And it's funny because when I look back, way back in my early 20s when I started, never thinking it was going to be my career, never for a second thinking I would do it for longer than a year or two. Now I look back on that, I'm like, wow, that was a really good decision on my part to stay and to keep looking for opportunities within school districts, because the pension didn't mean anything to me really until
at the time.
Not at all.
Yeah,
No.
right.
I was lucky to make my rent payment per month. Are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness.
Pension and retirement. In fact, pretty recently, like within the last 10 years, I remember saying to friends, like, yeah, retirement? What? I'm going to work till I die. Who are you kidding? What? And so recently, like within the last 5 to 6 years is when it's kind of been, now I'm giving my age away, which I'm not ashamed of actually. But
Yeah.
I really started to go, wow, this might be an opportunity. I might actually get to retire. And talking to a financial person and saying, and I'm going, oh my gosh, you've got a pension with para? Okay, great. That sets you up really well. And then you've got this, Social Security, God willing, it'll still be around. And then, let's talk about investments or what. And it was like, okay, the reality of retirement actually was like, oh,
This is doable.
wow, well, this might be happening.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, and I really, really try to explain that to employees, especially newer employees, and give them examples as to why working for the city, the state, a school district, any public municipality in the state of Minnesota, why this is a really big benefit that you get.
Yep.
That you don't get in the private sector. Now, private sector companies can be very generous if they choose to,
Sure.
but your public sector companies have to by law because it's in the state bylaws.
Right.
So we don't have a choice. So there's pluses and minuses. My sister just recently retired and she worked for law firms all of her life.
Okay.
And she made a lot more money than I ever made per year. There was a lot more income, but then she had to invest it really well.
Right.
So it's kind of like I never would believe that people could become millionaires working for the city or the state, but you have something here. And the other part of it, in addition to the pension piece, is I get going on my payroll stuff. I can't help it. I love what I do. But also the collegiality. People really want to work together. And they really, and especially when it's a town, I lived in River Falls, Wisconsin, which is a very small town. I lived there for 6 years, actually 8 years. I lived in Hudson for a couple of years. I lived in White Bear Lake. I've lived in Centerville. So I've always been born and raised in St. Paul, but I love that small town. People know each other. People look out for each other. People know their neighbors. They want to know their
Yeah.
neighbors.
It's awesome.
And sometimes they want to know everybody's business.
It happens too.
Hey, it's okay. We're looking out for each other.
Right.
But it's like, that's what you get when you work in a city. It's like, we're not all trying to climb on top of each other to get up that corporate ladder. And when I did work for those couple corporate companies, it really kind of did. I met great people, but there was that feeling of, well, you could make so much more. Do you want to go for this position? Do you want? And it's like, I don't want to step on somebody to get somewhere else. I just want to
boost
work
yourself
with,
up.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that makes
working with
sense.
people, and I just got that feeling here.
Yeah.
People like what they do. People like their coworkers, and
think-
people like to work as a team.
Definitely. There's a need for serving the community.
Absolutely.
It's in every single department. I mean, we
Yes.
are always thinking resident focus, resident first. So
That's our customer.
yeah.
We work for them. We would
Right.
not be here. We would not get a paycheck if it wasn't for the citizens of Farmington. Yes, and similar to school districts, it's like those residents in that school district is, I wouldn't have a job if they didn't make their property tax payments. So
Correct, yeah.
this isn't my money. It's all of our money, and we're trying to do the best we can with it.
Absolutely.
So
Great. What are you most looking forward to in this new position?
oh gosh, there's a lot of things. I'll say the first thing is that it's been a while since I get up in the morning and I look forward to going to work.
That's amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh,
I,
Patty.
she's turning pink. She's like, oh, that's so sweet. But
Yeah.
really, because have you ever had a job where you're like, okay, I gotta drive into work today? And if you've ever had that, that feeling, and it's not a good feeling.
It's not fun to
No.
dread your everyday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People laugh about the Sunday scaries. Like, oh God, it's about 6:00 on Sunday night. I'm getting the scary. And I just love, like I said, collegiality and people that enjoy what they do and people that enjoy other people. They're not just coming to a job just to do a job. They enjoy what they do.
So much passion around
Yep.
here.
So I love coming to work. I look forward to helping. That was the other thing I was going to say, really knowing where we've been with payroll and HR and a lot of change in 2022. It's amazing how much change. But I'm really looking forward to working with Julie and Terry and Lynn and the rest of everybody here, but particularly my little team of Julie and myself and Terry.
Yep.
And looking at how can we make open enrollment benefit stuff as easy and as understandable as possible for our employees.
Yep.
Because the citizens are our ultimate customer. But for me in payroll and HR, my employees are my customers, and I want to make it as painless and as easy to understand as I possibly can, because I get overwhelmed with benefits and I work in this stuff, right? Same with payroll.
It can get very confusing.
Correct. So helping that, and then just like then W-2s, it's like, how do I make sure that they're accurate? And, going forward into new software, hopefully in 2024, we're going to get more user-friendly software for HR and payroll and that type of thing. So just trying to look ahead and say, in the next 3 to 5 years, my goal is to make this position better, leave it better than when I got here. That's always been my goal, and I try to aspire to that. So, yeah. So I'm on a 3 to 5 year plan.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate everything you've done so far this year, and
thank you.
Your positive energy and spunkiness. It brings a smile to everyone's face. So
good.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Terry Wilson. Terry joined the Farmington team in August in a brand new position here for Farmington as HR specialist. How has your first month been?
It has been very, very busy. And really, for me, it's been a huge learning curve. But I can't believe a month has gone by already.
Yeah. Well, so what have you been keeping busy with?
So, primarily, it's just kind of getting to know the systems, just your basic things like, your computer systems, your filing systems, people, their names, all of that, which is really important to HR.
Yep.
Mainly all of that type of things.
Great. Where did you work before?
Prior to this position, I worked for the city of Edina, where I was there for the last 28 years.
Wow. So you have a lot of local gov experience.
I do have a lot of local gov experience.
What are some of your first priorities for Farmington? Like, what are your big projects coming up?
So at this time of year for HR, the biggest thing is open enrollment. So that's where all the employees have a chance to review all of their benefits, make any changes, and sign up for the 2023. So that's basically what I've been doing right now, is just familiarizing myself with all of our vendors and providers, and then trying to get all that information together and then ready to present to our employees, which I will be doing in November for our open enrollment period.
Great. So do you have a lot of experience with open enrollment, or is it a little bit newer?
It is newer. My primary responsibility at the city of Edina was obviously in HR, but it was in recruiting. The benefit side I did early on in my HR career, so I'm really kind of looking forward to revisiting that and learning that again.
Great. You live in Farmington right now?
I do.
How long have you been around here?
I moved to Farmington in 2000, so I've been here for 22 years.
Wow.
So my commute to my work is very, very nice.
Definitely. You've been around for 22 years, so how has Farmington changed in your time being here?
It has grown. I remember when I first moved here in 2000, I think the population was around 9,000.
Wow.
So it's more than doubled since I've been here. Just all of the growth, the new developments, even seeing the school system grows, the elementary schools, and obviously the beautiful high school.
Yeah. What is one of your favorite things to do here?
That would be, actually, it's two things. I am a big walker, so I can just walk out my door and hit some paths and start walking.
Great.
So I really enjoy that. And then I golf. So I enjoy golfing too.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for you. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I just am really happy to be here, and everybody's been awesome and super welcoming. So I'm just looking forward to continue to learn and serve the community.
Yeah. Awesome. Welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Once more, I just want to say welcome to Emily, Terry, and Patty to the city of Farmington. I can't wait to see all of the amazing things they do. And that concludes this episode of Farmington Feed. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we will see you next time.